of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, we'll move right into public comment. So, public?
I've got one. I've brought this up several times over the last couple of years when it deals with the Note 12 in the audit of 2013. I know you guys have said the auditor can't do anything, but I'm asking you one more time, since you have already acknowledged at least once in a public meeting that that note is not accurate, that you pass a memo or a resolution or something stating on the record that that note is not accurate and attach it to that audit from 2013. Because that's part of Edgar County history. And, you know, the note's inaccurate. Nobody needs to believe that D. Bergen paid $100,000 for that ambulance, and everybody knows he didn't pay a penny. That needs to be corrected, and it needs to be in the record from now to infinity. That's all I got.
Ray? You have the floor, Ray.
I am concerned about the amount of money that the county is just flat donating to the ambulance service. I think it's wrong. If the county wants to donate to private enterprise, private business, I'll put my name on the list. Because it's wrong, it's private industry, it's private business, and it's wrong, the taxpayers' money is donated and given to them. Thank you.
Kirk?
I don't have
Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you.
Hey, good morning, everybody. I was watching the candidates last night. I don't know how many of you folks tuned in to the CNN debates. I can't decide which one I'm going to vote for, which one I'm specifically not going to vote for. But my name is Robert Bogue, citizen of the United States of America, as we all are. I'm also a resident of Edgar County. This morning I'd like to talk about the airport and the airport operation. A lot of the events that have occurred at the airport in the last couple of years. We start by saying those most responsible for the operation of the airport are Jeff Hoy, Carl Farnham, and Mr. Helsley. These are the people that are on the airport committee. Whatever happens up there, they control. Pretty much control. The airport operation has distinguished itself nationally for a grant that was recalled and frozen because it had tons of lies in it. The airport committee knew all this, did nothing. When Mr. Wells was picking on my son, I stood before this county board, many of you people here, talked month after month after month, no action was taken. That would be Jimmy Wells. That was an errant county employee that should have been reprimanded or dismissed. A lot like Mr. Griffin. Mr. Griffin never should have been hired. His credentials are rotten. We have a covert investigator on the county board. Mr. Helsley has been unable to determine if the resume submitted to the county is accurate or not. I didn't have any trouble doing that. Mr. Griffin lied about his 5 years of experience, and he lied that he worked on airplanes, and none of the people around him that could have authorized and endorsed and certified that work are willing to do so because he didn't do it. Month after month after month, we come before this county board and we say, hey, do something. Nothing gets done. I started a moment ago and talked about national elections. Well, there's elections coming up in Edgar County too. You've had the benefit of thumbing your nose for 4 years. The airport committee and the county boards had the benefit of thumbing their nose, the taxpayers will, regarding the airport operation. You've done nothing. Jerry Griffin is still employed and should not be there. You've done nothing about that. Same as Jimmy Wells. What did you do there? You took his resignation. You did nothing. Lisa Gill, another employee that never should have been hired. Never followed the county's policy manual on being hired. You did nothing. You three people, Jeff Voigt, pardon? Jeff Voigt, Carl Farnham, and Mike Helsley could have fixed all this, could have changed all this, and this never should have happened. You have been the spearhead of the most embarrassing government operation in the state of Illinois. You are known nationally for your determination not to do the right thing. The taxpayers in Edgar County have noticed this. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any further public comment? I'd note that there's been several questions asked. We will address those and get you, for example, your answer to John. And
If you want a refresher on the note 12 conversation from last year, I can give you the audio for it.
that's fine. What I say, we'd get you an answer then too. Well, at any rate, I think we have given you an answer, but I will get you an answer. Okay. All right. Moving on the agenda, we've asked Eric and Nicole Shaughnessy to be here so that we could do like we did last year and discuss their their levy, so that we can have some back and forth on it and determine what the levy is going to be for the fiscal year 16. So I don't know how you want to handle it, or which one of you wants to handle it, and which one of you is prepared, but we're ready to receive your information so that we can determine how we're going to handle it.
Good. I'm gonna borrow Mike's chair.
Right here.
Oh, you can leave your jacket. I'm just gonna set the laptop there. Try and make it a little bit bigger.
Eric, you want to put something underneath
That
that?
would work.
Make both of those?
Okay.
That's better than too low.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's talk first about the ambulance levy. The people of the 7 townships, which would be Grandview, Sims, Elbridge, Stratton, Hunter, Paris, and Buck, voted to have the ambulance levy. They voted for the #1 special service area. We didn't do it. D. Bergen didn't do it. This was done years ago, the way I understand it, because I wasn't here when it first started. But the voters of those 7 townships decided what would be, or that they wanted to subsidize an ambulance service. The county tried to run it. The hospital tried to run it. There was other outside agencies that tried to run it, and it was never successful. Is that true? I mean, is that true for the people that have lived here and know this area? I mean, know it better than I do. I mean, that's what has been explained to me, so I'm assuming that it's accurate. So, this was set up years and years ago. We had nothing to do with it other than we own the company now that's contracted with the county. So we're going to give you a little history of Edgar County Special Service Area Ambulance. And our goal is to provide the citizens with the highest quality of care we can offer. We provide prompt response, professional patient care, safe transport to the facility of the patient's choice if possible, and then this was established in 2003. So all up until prior to 2003, this didn't work. Otherwise, it wouldn't have went the way that it went. And so it works, and this is the way it works now. Right now, we have 21 employees with over 195 years in combined experience in EMS. The average length of our people are at least 5 years. 17 of our staff members live in Edgar County, with 16 of those living in the Special Service Area District. Our average pay for a paramedic is $45,000, and our average EMT salary is $30,000. So if you look at that, with 17 of our people living in Edgar County, we're a big business. I mean, we're a small business, but we're a big business. We support the local economy quite a bit. So we provide more than required by the county contract, with the addition of the 3rd ambulance that's scheduled 24 hours a day. We have 3 staffed paramedic ambulances. We provide a 4th ambulance when needed, and then we have a 5th ambulance that can be upgraded to paramedic if needed. We also have the off-road rescue that we use to remove patients from remote locations, assist with search and rescue. We've been using it at the high school football games this year. Which is interesting because our special service district is those 7 townships. However, we've been personally contacted by people that live in Edgar Township and ask us what they could do to join the special service area. Because they didn't like the service that they received from the service that took care of them. That's something you all have to decide later. But we've been in contact by at least 3 different families there wanting to know what they could do to join the special service area. And what we've done since we've taken over the company in 2009, we upgraded all the heart monitors to the state-of-the-art cardiac monitors on all ambulances that can transmit 12 leads EKGs from the scene to the physician. We also have upgraded all of our laptops and electronic patient records. We perform blood draws in the field, which is help with the stroke readiness certification that Paris Hospital has, and has helped them quite a bit. And we have transport ventilators. Then on average, we provide over 150 hours of community service, free of charge to events in Special Service Area Number 1. We sponsor numerous community organizations. We also provide first responder, CPR, first aid, basic life support courses. And then we just finished up our 6th EMT class September 10th. And then we've also, since we took over the ambulance service, we started a scholarship program where we awarded a $1,000 scholarship every year to someone that's going in the medical field, hopefully for them to come back to Paris. And this is the stuff that you all wanted to see, and we've broken it down for you. Our continuing education cost is around $14,500. Our fuel cost is about $40,000. Our workers' comp, I want you to see that, is $53,000 a year. Anybody want to take a guess why? Because nobody likes ambulance services. Because it's a labor-intensive field, and what happens is people get injured, so workers' comp went up. Our workers' comp has went up 2.5 times this year alone. And everybody goes, well, just find someone else. It doesn't work that way. We can't be self-insured. We can't go anywhere else. We're in the assigned risk pool. We have some insurance company that got assigned to us because our payroll's not over $1 million a year. If your payroll's over $1 million a year, you can find a company. If it's less than $100,000 a year, you can find it. But if it's $101,000 to $999,000, you're in the risk pool. You're in the assigned risk pool. Our insurance for liability insurance is $65,000. Corporate insurance is $15,000. Our medical supplies, everybody thought that Obamacare was going to be great. It's not. Our medical supplies has jumped almost 45% this year alone because of the medical device taxes that he imposed. Also, that we did assume that the old building, the 1703 building from the county last year. Now our office supplies around $8,100. Our payroll is $721,000 is what we pay out a year in our average payroll. Postage is about $2,600. Repair and maintenance is $19,000. Our property taxes, that's the taxes we pay on the buildings that we have, is $8,466 a year. Uniform expenses are another $28,000 a year. Utilities, $18,000. Vehicle maintenance, $25,000, and the vehicle purchase, $250,000 for the new rig we got, with the equipment that goes in it too. So our total budget's around $1.3 million, and we want to know what the direct cost was from what the county, what we were supposed to provide by contract. Our increase was over $263,000. However, last year, our levy was decreased. It was decreased. We were at 19.363% for last year, for this year's, or that was paid this year. We had been at 20%, and you all can increase it up 5% a year, but our levy was decreased.
We asked the same amount of money. It just
Right, but the balance, right,
Right.
but the percentage is less.
Right.
So ECSA currently gets about $319,000 a year from the levied funds for Edgar County Special Service District 1. Now that's where if the county decides to run the ambulance service or we run the ambulance service, that's what the taxes are collected for, is to provide a paramedic ambulance service for those townships that voted on it.
And that's all that can be used for.
That's all that can be used for. This is a pass-through levy. This is its own levy, just like the schools have their own levy that are not part of the county's general budget. It is specifically stated it has to be used for EMS. Yes, Dan?
For my own information, when this was going on last year, 2 years ago about the levy, I went and talked to Jim Keller, who was the past chairman of the board. He filled me in on what you're saying. It was voted on by the people of the 7 districts. So it was there before we even took over the ambulance.
Right.
So,
It's been there to subsidize the
Right.
ambulance service,
it
even
was
when the
voted on by the people for the ambulance service.
right, to have it available. And that was even then when the hospital still run it. The money was funneled to the hospital then. So, I mean, it's nothing that we've done. It's just the way that it's been set up for years. So that's what we got is about approximately $319,000 this year. And we've never requested a levy since the inception, even though we have a rise in operating costs, let alone this last year was over $263,000. And then we're seeing approximately 35% increase yearly on our write-offs and non-payments. However, so far it's been over 50% in the last 12 months. Now,
We're 74.
well, let me explain something to you. I can charge you whatever I want. However, the federal government regulates us. The federal government says if Dan Bruner has Medicare and I bill Dan Bruner $800, the Medicare is going to say we're going to pay you $350, and the rest of it you just get to write off. You can't go after Dan Bruner to get it. You have to accept assignment from Medicare. So it's nothing we can do. I mean, we can bill you as much as we want, but the federal law says you will accept what we will pay you. So we are kind of a fee for service, however, we don't get to collect the fees we charge. Does that make sense? I mean, everybody kind of looks at me like I'm crazy when I say that, but it's the truth.
And it's not just Medicare, that also goes for all state programs such as Medicaid, VA, work comp,
Hospital bills.
hospital.
And here's an example.
They all have set fees that they are allowed, that they pay, and that's it. And we're seeing this also, with commercial insurers now. With the Affordable Care Act and Obamacare, a lot of our larger commercial insurers are now coming together, such as Humana and Aetna, which are our bigger companies. We're now seeing them combine, which unfortunately is creating a monopoly of our insurance market. And they also, it is impacting the fees that they pay, or the reimbursements that they pay for their insured clients, which is decreasing.
So, but like, for an example, public aid, Medicaid, pays around $130 for an ambulance trip. No matter if we give you every drug on the ambulance, no matter if we do everything to save your life, they're going to pay us $110, $120. And you can look it up. I mean, there's a fee for service, and it says, this is all we're going to pay you, and this is what you have to accept.
Also on Medicare's website, medicare.gov, it breaks it down for everyone who, any agency, hospital, ambulance, any medical agency, physician's offices that request federal funding, they have a report that shows how much was billed towards federal programs and how much was reimbursed. So you can all go online and look at that too, and it will show you exactly for any agency across the board what kind of federal funding grant or money was received from them for payment of service.
Yes, Carl.
Okay, you're talking public aid, Medicare.
Right.
What about me that's not on any of that? Then I get socked
Then you get a bill
for
for whatever the
$2,000.
Well, depending on what the bill is.
Well, but
We don't inflate our prices to cover the non-payments.
Right.
If
Well,
that's
I'm
what you're
not-
asking.
no,
It doesn't make
that's
a
not what I'm
difference because we
saying.
don't, because even
No.
private, no insurance, private pays, they still, they still receive, our billing is the same across the board regardless. It's not
So
inflated to
if
cover the
it's-
non-payments.
So if it's someone that's on Medicare and their service calls for $1,000, and if I called and got the same exact
Your bill will be
thing,
exactly the same as theirs.
Except their Medicare
somebody
says,
found
we
it.
will pay you $350, have a nice day. The Carl Farnham, we say, hey, Carl Farnham, you need to pay your bill.
So the supplement covers what Medicare doesn't cover?
No,
Okay.
it will cover a percentage of what they say. What Medicare says is an allowable charge.
Right.
So if Medicare says a charge is $500 allowable, we'll pay you $400, then you can charge the supplement for the $100 or
Percentage of the remaining.
or percentage, or we could say, Dan Bruner, you have to pay what Medicare says is allowed, but that's your portion of it.
Right.
But when they say that the bill's $350, that's all we're gonna pay, that's all you can do.
Every
You have to
patient's
take everything
different
else.
with their- Some patients have a copay, some Medicaid patients have a spin down based on their income. Some patients have none. It just depends patient to
Do you-
patient, so.
Do you get a lot of calls from areas in town where you know, or I wouldn't say bogus, but they're not real bona fide
Yes,
ambulance calls just to get a trip to the hospital with a sore
I
throat.
can vouch for that.
yes. But unfortunately, we have,
Yes.
Still costs you X amount.
Still
of
costs
dollars.
us, it still costs us the same amount of money to run that ambulance, and but we're not gonna get reimbursed for it. And it doesn't matter if we're doing it or if anybody's doing it, that's just what the way it's gonna be.
we have a
And
duty, we have a duty to act. So unfortunately, even if we know that we're going to such and such an address, which they call all the time, and sometimes they're waiting with their bags packed on the porch for us because they know they're gonna go to the hospital for a few days. Unfortunately, we can't say, no, we're not gonna treat you because it doesn't justify an ambulance transport. When they call 911, we have a duty to respond.
We do have one conviction though for false 911 call for an ambulance.
In Kansas.
You betcha.
But the other thing is since we're talking about Obamacare and federal programs, with Obamacare, everybody thought that, well, I'm going to get Obamacare insurance, so I'm going to have insurance now. Well, what they didn't realize is that these people that thought they were going to get Obamacare insurance actually qualified for Medicaid.
Right.
So instead of getting the Obamacare insurance, they actually got put on the books as Medicaid patients. And so that's drastically reduced reimbursement too. And that's not just reimbursement for the ambulance service, it's in the whole medical community.
$800,000 in
Yes,
the state of Illinois on Medicaid,
yes.
Right.
800,000 more on Medicaid.
Since the exception of the ACA, yes.
Yes.
Also, with that, Medicaid, they had increased their reimbursement. The state had got them to increase.
It was like 8% increase. Or actually, it was less than that. It was like a 5% increase because they took away 3%, but they gave us back our 3%, but gave us a 2% raise before Rauner became the governor. And then Rauner has just since wiped it out and said, we're going back to 2013 payment schedules.
And they're actually looking at decreasing the 2013 payment schedule.
Even lower than what it was before.
And as you know, we have no state budget, so therefore there are no Medicaid funds currently coming in from anything from August 1 on.
So, and here's some comparison. Now remember, you have 3 staffed 24-hour day paramedic ambulances here for the $319,000. According to the Clark County Treasurer, Marshall Fire Protection District, for their EMS alone, receives $500,000 for a volunteer ambulance service. So what's that mean? Dan's having a heart attack. Dan's wife calls 911. They page out Marshall. Marshall responds to their station, then goes to Dan. Could take them 20 minutes to get to Dan having a heart attack. Dan's dead. I'm not picking on you, Dan, but
Age of them.
That's that way.
okay.
Hey, that's,
Yeah.
But that could be a true reality, and that's why the people of those 7 townships wanted an ambulance service here and voted to support it. So that just gives you an idea of theirs. Clark County, which covers the rest of Clark County, which is West Union, Martinsville, Casey, and Westfield, receive over $450,000 a year in tax money. So they get, in Clark County, for all the ambulance services, almost $1 million a year to have voluntary ambulance services. The 7 townships get 3 paramedic ambulance services, 3 paramedic ambulances for $319,000 a year. So those are some facts. So the taxpayers special service district voted before 2003 to a levy of 20% to be applied strictly to fund Edgar County Special Service Area Ambulance. This was before that. It's a pass-through. It's collected. It's not part of the county's general budget at all. It goes into one account and goes right back out. The levy funds do not impact the operating budget, and that the levy funds collected cannot be transferred, dispersed to any other operating accounts. Can only be used for ambulance operations. If the special service area ever went away, all that money would have to be refunded to the people that are in this taxing district. So that money's set aside. What's neat is there's only 2 special service area ambulances in the whole state of Illinois. We're one of them. There's another one up around Rantoul, and I just found out about them the other day because they called me and they were talking to me about it. And most special service areas they set up for bridges and roads, because say the people of Kansas Township wanted to have a new bridge put in, and the people voted to put in a special service area to build this bridge, you could then do that. But they typically don't do it for ambulances, but there are 2 now in the state of Illinois that are set up like that. So there's been no request for increased levies since the inception, since 2003. Although we see a dramatic increase in their non-payment for services, and we're experiencing decrease in reimbursements from both public aid, because there's not being budget passed, and then commercial insurers. And then we respectfully ask for discussion to increase the levied amount for the fiscal year. Now, you all have it within your power that you can raise it up to up 5% a year. That's within that any levied amount can be raised up to 5% without having to go back for a vote. That's, I mean, I believe I understand it. Is that true?
Well, before you have a truth and taxation meeting.
Right, but you have to have that. But you can raise it up to 5%.
Yeah.
And I'm going to give you some examples. I looked at this. I looked at our tax bill for ACSSA for our properties, the red building and the old beer building. We pay $846,000 in taxes.
8,000.
Or $8,460, sorry. $8,466 in taxes. And our current tax rate's 9.19363%, which is roughly $163.93 for the ambulance service. If you increase it 5% up to the 24.363%, it's $206.26, so a difference of $42.33 for a year. Now, this is the lot that we have. We have a lot about by our house, a spare lot, and we pay $707. Personally, this is
It's nothing to do with ambulance service.
this is just
Our
a comparison.
He's giving you comparison.
So it's valued at $7,117. Our ambulance tax is $13.78. If you increased it, it would be $17.34, which would be $3.56. Now, everybody likes their mother-in-law, right? I didn't put it up here, but I looked up my mother-in-law's house just to compare. It was less than $4.70. If you increased it all the way up to 24.363%. So the price of a value meal at McDonald's once would increase the levy, or if you increase the levy, that's all it would charge. Actually, less than what it costs to get a Big Mac value meal. Yes, John?
I'm not a board member, but something just popped in my head. Pretty dangerous, so. You said they voted to pass a levy of 20%.
Right.
Can you increase past what the
Yes.
voters voted to put the levy at, is my question. Is it stuck at 20%?
No, the way I understand it, they've had the opportunity all along to raise it above that. The initial levy was set at 20, up to 20.
Who's they? You're saying the county board?
The county board.
Because I know with like 911, if we voted to allow $1 per phone bill, they can't make it $1.25.
No, but this is.
How does that apply to that levy we were talking about, my question?
I'd have to figure out the rest of the
Yeah,
research,
because you said
but
that we voted for 20%.
up to 20 cents the first year, and then the county board could have, in 2003 or in 2000, whenever that was passed, they could have raised it to 25% without having a hearing on it. The way that I understand the special service area tax levy.
Yeah,
I'm not an
I don't know,
attorney.
that was what I was asking.
I'm not an attorney, so don't. I mean, yes, Jeff.
Okay.
I just use that as a comparison.
The increase of 5% is not based on the levy, it's based on the dollar amount for the previous year. So if you did $319,000, it's 5% of that amount is what you can increase. You can't increase the levy by 5% because that would be like 15%.
Okay, but well, you understand better than I do. And
that's fine, and I don't mean to be. So we keep it in the.
So, but I was just using examples of if you increased it 5% and it was 19.93% now, and it went up to the 24.3%, what the cost would be for real households.
Okay.
Does that make sense?
Yes.
Maybe I didn't explain it well.
Well, you actually would increase the. In other words, if you were paying 163.
That's what we pay now.
Right, you would apply the 5% to the 163.
So it would be less.
To the levy.
So it would be even less.
Right. Yes.
So I'm just giving you, I was just using the examples of a 5-cent increase. How's that? Not 5%, but a 5-cent increase in the levy.
I got you.
To give you some comparison to look at.
Okay.
So it actually, you would be less than that amount.
Right.
So I don't have my
5% of the dollars collected would be
But-
roughly
15,000.
16,000.
Yeah.
Would be the increase if you took it up 5% of previous
Okay.
year levy.
well, I don't know what that would break down to each house, but
For this, for the $163 it'd be 8.19.
so $8. So you can't even go to McDonald's and have two people eat for that. So
Anymore.
no, but I mean I just wanted to give you some comparisons so you could think about it.
Still $4.
No, that's,
And I'll give you another caveat. This is what's funny because we've been dealing with all of our insurance, and what they said is you're in Illinois. We don't have workers' comp reform here, and this is what all the insurance companies said. If you moved your business to Indiana, your rate would go down. Like our rate, I think now is 14 ballpark. I'm going shooting from the hip here. $14 assessed per whatever the way they do it. In Indiana, it's $5 to $6. So over half the cost because they've had workers' comp reform over there and stuff like that. And that's just what the guy said. I said, well, it's not like I can pick up a building and move it. And he laughed. I said, we wouldn't do it anyway. But that was just an idea of what he said is that they've had workers' comp reform in that state.
Just showing the difference between states. From a state that has no workers' comp reform to a state that recently passed work comp reform, you're looking at over a 50% decrease in their work comp rates. Unfortunately, we have no choice. We're stuck with the state of Illinois being in the risk pool.
So just help me conceptualize, if that 5% increase applied to the overall budget would be straight up 5%, or is there some other numbers?
So it'd be 5%. It'd be of the 319,000. So it'd be roughly, as Jeff said, $16,000. So you'd be at $335,000, $337,000.
335.
Hypothetically, your operating budget for 2016.
For 2016 would go up by $16,000.
But the increase would be only for the counties and.
It would only
Yes,
involve
it's for the
these
tax
7 townships: Hunter, Stratton, Elbridge, Sims, Grandview, sorry Jeff, Paris, and Buck. Because those are the ones that are in the special service area.
Let me ask the question here. Suppose this doesn't happen. What's your alternative? What's your plan B if you don't get your increase? Or I'm just throwing this out. I'm not saying. Let's say we decide to cut it 100,000. What's your plan B?
Just, I don't know what our plan B is going to be for that. I can tell you this: if you would cut it $100,000, then more than likely it would not be good, and you all would be held with trying to find an ambulance service. Either that, or we'd have to cut services.
The extra ambulance you're having now ain't gonna be there because
No.
it's not required.
No, it wouldn't be there because it's not required. So then what do you do? Then if Mike's having a heart attack, Dan's having a heart attack, and Andy's having a heart attack, Andy's gonna have to wait for someone that would be mutual aid to come take care of his heart attack. I mean, that would be,
I'm just asking those questions here.
Well, he wouldn't do all the football games and all the fairs and
No.
stuff like that.
that we're required by law to be at football games.
Oh, that right? Okay.
Yeah, that's Illinois law says that if there's a football game, there has to be an ambulance there.
So that's in your district, right?
Mm-hmm.
How
The
does,
schools are charged, though.
how's Kansas ambulance funded
We have a tax levy.
specifically for the ambulance?
Yes, sir.
It's not a part of the fire district?
It's in the fire district. We have a fire district levy for the fire department. We have a rescue levy and an ambulance levy. Our ambulance levy is approximately 36 or 37,000 a year. And we run 2 ambulances, all volunteer. We have 3 paramedics now, and I think 8 EMS or EMT.
How many
basics.
townships, Kurt?
It's Kansas Township.
That's only, no Grandview, nobody else?
No.
Kansas Township.
Okay.
And and in our case, the voters passed 3-1 to keep an ambulance there, and that's how they did it, because it was the only way to do it. As a volunteer, there's just no way.
What did you say earlier your decrease in your increase in non-payments was?
If I recall.
He said
Holly-
74%.
Yeah, I thought Holly said around 74, 75%.
In the last 12 months?
And Mike, to your question, about 80% of our calls are to government housing. We don't see squat in return for that.
Do you guys, you don't go over to Coles to Ashmore? I mean, you will, I guess.
Mutual aid, yeah.
Okay.
But-
But you're not getting any money from anybody other than Kansas Township?
Yeah, just Kansas Township.
And
We
they
don't
and they
all
run
have
they run a basic level ambulance too.
Right.
That's
It's
not the one that can do, not the paramedic. There's 3 levels in the state of
And
Illinois,
it's volunteer. I mean,
and it is volunteer, right? So it may take them 10 minutes, I don't know what it is, but it could take them 10 minutes to get the station to respond.
Okay, it's, one of the things you put up there, just as a note, and I don't know what cardiac monitors you have, but we're trying to step up, since that law passed, that the highest provider on the ambulance, you can be at that level service.
Right.
So that means we have to have the same equipment. Well, just a cardiac monitor, we're looking at almost $40,000.
And we have 5 of them at that cost.
So it's, I mean, it's a big pill to swallow for, I know it is for us, because that's the biggest hurdle for us stepping up right now is wait for another tax levy revenue to come in, because we can't afford that kind of monitor.
Right, and we have 5 of those. Because when we took over the ambulance service, there was one that was on one of the ambulances that could tell you if you were having a heart attack. The rest of them weren't.
And it was had to be shared between.
And it had to be shared between whichever units were first out. And I said, this is ridiculous. If 4 people are having heart attacks, all 4 people we should be able to tell that they're having them. So we invested the capital to do that.
Well, and to John's question, I guess I'll go the other way. If the voters said 20%, can you go below that if that's what they?
They have gone below it.
My question is, when can you go above?
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. I'm asking.
Well, it works both ways, right?
Right. Well, it has been below it. I mean, because the dollar amount was the same this year as last year, so the levy amount went down some.
Well, the levy actually didn't go down. What you have is a collection. If you say you want 320,000, some people don't pay their taxes.
Right.
So part of that, not all of it, has to do with actual collections. Okay?
Right.
I mean, nobody gets 100% of their levy. It's just doesn't work that way. So you're asking for a 5% increase in the base amount of your levy.
Yes.
You're asking, basically, your levy last year was $320,000. Because that's what was levied.
Right.
The levy amount.
Correct.
So you would like a 5% increase on that $320,000.
Absolutely.
That's, I just wanted to
And
come through what
and the
they're
reason is because we've seen an increase of 800,000 people go on to Medicaid in the state of Illinois.
And the multiplier, how does that affect this?
That only affects the ground that the tax is applied to. That will change the rate a little bit.
Okay, that's what
Right.
I'm
Now-
wondering.
Farmland's taxed at a different rate than what houses are.
Right, I realize.
But the thing is that there's never been an increase. And we're seeing that there needs to be an increase. Because otherwise, eventually this is going to run out to where it's not going to be self-supported. It's not self-supported right now if you figure $319 or $320,000 if they collected 100%, and we're spending over $700,000 a year in salaries.
Any other board questions?
I think, Jeff, as we look at this, we may want to have some legal advice and look into this from a lot of questions. One is like, if it was the 20%, if there is a difference because it's a special service area, can we do more, can we do less? I mean, I think there's some questions there that we probably just, is beyond us.
We just
right
need
now.
to double check.
Because I think we have to find that out first to see if we can give more, give less, or do whatever. because
I'm
those-
looking at an ordinance where it was established, and it says the maximum rate of taxes to be extended against all property within said territory shall be 20 cents per 100,000 of assessed valuation.
And what we need to do is look at what that actually, I'm guessing that's about $1.7 million.
So this was on the original.
Okay, and that's the original.
Right.
So we'd have to look at what that.
What's the deadline? Does anybody know? We have to do this by.
Yeah, we have to do it by November.
December for levy.
We have to have both levies, all of the levies passed November 1st meeting, and then
When was that done?
repass it the second meeting.
87?
Okay. So see, yeah, that goes back even further than what I thought.
Because it also-
But then also here's, in April of '87, it says the said area is also created so that taxes may be levied and extended upon all property within said area at a maximum rate for the first year of 20 cents per 100,000. So, the state attorney's gonna have to look into
Yeah,
this.
so we'll just make
Right.
sure that,
Yeah.
and what we need to do is think about it for a few
Well, it's
days.
good for all of us anyway, so that we're all on the same page and we understand what,
That's why we did this.
yeah.
You need an answer when?
Well, we're gonna have to come up with an answer to have everything together by October, sometime in October. because we'll have to print up the levy and it'll have to be ready for that first meeting in November. Okay?
Do you have any other questions for me or?
Yeah, can you go back
Sure.
forward to your total costs?
That one of the
that one.
$1,330,382.
Yeah, the 263 increase from 2014.
For those actual expenses, that's in.
Yeah, no, that's actual expenses. There's a difference between
Yeah, I know.
what really,
Yeah.
what people think it is and what the actual,
Well, there's a difference between what you put in the budget and what you actually spend.
yeah, no, that's what was the increase was.
Right now, we're dealing with a good problem to have, but budgetary wise, when you look at the numbers, when Eric showed the longevity of our staff, we have quite a few staff who have been there over 5 years. The average is 5 years. We have quite a few staff who have been there over 5 years, some of them 10 to 13 years.
I see a
And
lot of
so
that.
where we say our base
More aware
paramedic
than most
salary
people come to
Yeah.
work at
starts at
commercial.
$45,000, that's not taking into account, you know, the employees who have been with us for an extended period of time. That's our average start salary for a new employee at that, not for employees who have been with the company for any amount of time.
So
and the
someone
reason-
like Andrea, who's been there for years, is making well above that start salary.
So, I mean, it's a good problem to have because we have good experienced providers on our staff. However, when you look at the budget side of it, you know, it's also a budgetary issue because we don't have that turnover.
Where's the difference coming from between 1.3 and 300,000?
A lot of it is insurance. Payroll went up.
So what is, what, do you have somewhere on there what you're actually bringing in from all other outside sources? I'm just curious of what the bottom line is here, like, how unsustainable is this, you know? It sounds pretty bad when, you know, some of the numbers that are being thrown out, I'm just curious. Do you guys have a number for that?
Yeah, I don't have it with me. I can't tell you to be exact, and I don't wanna I don't wanna
Sure.
try to estimate and give you something that's incorrect.
I wouldn't know the answer.
Yes, Carl?
The new ambulance,
Mm-hmm.
that was not required with the contract.
You have to, we're required to provide ambulances at work. Do you want an ambulance that's gonna come break down on you, or do you want?
Well, no.
No,
I mean-
yes, you were required to have ambulances that run. So
You're
that was,
required 3? I can't, I don't have a contract.
no,
in front
we're
of me.
required two by
Two,
by
okay.
the agreement.
And how many do you have?
We have 5.
Okay.
And the reason we have 5 is because there are times that we've needed all 5 ambulances to respond to citizens. Technically, we could say the first 2 that call us, we make your all's runs, and the rest of you have to sit and wait till someone else can come get you by the contract.
Okay,
Now, morally, is that right?
right, I understand.
I mean, if you're having a heart attack and Dan and Andy are, well, I don't want to pick on Alan, but you know, if you 3 are having emergencies at the same time, you want your ambulance there now.
I didn't realize you had 5.
Yeah.
Okay.
He knows that. I think the picture of health would not.
Well, we
Yeah.
appreciate, go ahead. Nicole.
Laughing.
We appreciate your professional presentation. We obviously have some things to think about. As Alan pointed out, we've got to check out a couple things. And I think we're not gonna sit on this very long. I mean, we're gonna have to get with this and other budget levy issues rather shortly, so we will be getting back to you. If you have any questions, or if you can think of anything else that we need to know, please do.
If you have any other questions, always let us know. And the offer is always open, and Eric, since you're new to the board, if you'd like to come down at any point in time and see the service, look at it, look at the ambulances, the monitors, the equipment, ask us any questions, just kind of get an idea for how things flow down there, you're more than welcome, anybody's more than welcome to come down at any point in time.
Suck up to them a little bit, and when everybody's having a heart attack, maybe I'll do it first.
I'm actually gonna fall back on Jeff, because the phone calls are up there.
I'll grab you the pig later.
Well, thank
But,
you
you know,
again, folks.
another thing I was just gonna mention, I know when we were looking at this summer, Jeff and Nanette and I were talking about the dispatching and all that, and I made the comment, I said, what percent of the calls, basically,
Dispatch is pretty mess.
dispatch and Paris ambulance is over 75% of the 911 calls that come into the county, into the sheriff's department. Over 75% of them go to the Paris
ambulance. So they do a lot.
I mean, we can drop it down to the contract minimums, you know, to the 2 ambulances.
That means you're out.
Yeah,
I
Yeah.
got that one figured out a long
We did
time.
not go there, but now knowing that we did that, because we would not be providing the service that we need to be to our county.
I can vouch for service, I see a lot of it. So.
Well, I will say the level of care that they provide compared to what we used to have, there's no comparison.
There's no comparison.
Agreed.
That would be why people from, like I said, from Edgar Township have contacted us about trying to get in the special service area.
Referendum
Actually, that doesn't require a referendum.
from their township, it doesn't?
Nope. It involves the county board having hearings on it and saying that they say, and I'll just use an example, say Horace Road. Everybody in Edgar Township south of Horace Road would join the special service area. They would have hearings on it, and then if no one objected to it, then that would be the way that it would be. And if people do object to it, then they have to have 51% of the signatures in the proposed area say they will not
It's
do it.
like an annexation into the special
Pretty much.
service.
That's what it says over there.
Is that, am I right?
Yeah, yeah.
Good, I was gonna call you about it because I didn't understand it all.
Okay, we need to.
That's how, when it was first established, that's how they did it.
Okay.
Thank you, guys.
All right, thank you. All right, we're gonna continue with the rest of the meeting. Andy, committee report?
I've got the Freeling Roofing is coming. I met with them last week. And they're coming down middle to end of this next week. Last week of September, I'm gonna start working on the courthouse roof. One thing I do want, that needs to be addressed, and I'm working to find out what the implications of the direct vent on the boiler at the courthouse. Something's gotta be done before winter on that, on the flue on the boiler. So, by next meeting, I'm gonna have a recommendation of what I think we ought to do to replace that. I'm a little concerned about putting the direct vent, having that hot flue gases out. You get some guy coming across from shoot or some night, lays down there and goes to sleep permanent. I don't know whether we could put a fence up around the thing to keep something like that from happening, but anyway, I'll.
Put a sign up, Andy, no drumming.
Most of it can't read it
You gotta go get a bike or something.
anyway. Recommendation by the next meeting, what I think we ought to do. So, other than that, that's about it right now.
Mr. Bruner?
We have 2 companies that picked up specs for the replacement of the heating and cooling system at the health department. One requested a 2-week extension on getting in the specs, so I checked and we allowed that. So the problem is it's such a big job. It's going to take a while to get started, maybe January before it starts, which means you're going to have 0 weather, maybe no heat.
So the current system doesn't work at all?
Yeah, but there's some problems with it. Seemed like you get worked on about every week. And according to Andy, I think somebody said there may be a CO2 leak
There
down there.
definitely is a problem with
Yeah.
CO2, that old boiler manifold's leaking.
Right. So it may have to be checked
Yeah.
before you even start, so. One company wants to put the units on the wall with PVC pipe running to them. The other company wants to drop the ceiling. So dropping the ceiling is probably gonna take more time, more expense. So it depends on whether we wanna go with cosmetic value or the ceiling being dropped. So we have to decide on that.
Did you understand when they said they were gonna drop the ceiling, is that something, can they stage that? Or did they even mention anything like that? In other words, do part of it, do this half of it, or part of it while they're?
Well, he didn't really mention how he was gonna do it, so. He thought it looked better to drop the ceiling, put the ductwork line, the new ceilings, which would probably be true, but that's gonna be a lot more expensive and we're on a limited budget. So we'll see what comes in. We only have 2 companies right now that actually get on it, and both of them are out of town because I think the job's too big for local people. one local group went in and looked at, but I've heard they picked up any specs, so.
Any difference in the efficiency of either unit?
The one that well, you were there, the one Mitsubishi and the other company talked about it, the efficiency would be, you can put the thermostat in every room, but I don't know if it'd be different.
Well, Ben liked a certain one better than the other, didn't he? Remember we had some discussions and he thought one was a little better than the other.
Yeah,
I just know a lot of times those individual room units are a lot more efficient, so there's a long-term
Right.
look for us as far as, and I can't imagine aesthetics is that high of a priority at the.
well, that was my point too, so, I mean, we'll decide when it comes in.
Sure.
They were saying it's gonna save, I think she said the heating and electrical bills like $2,500 a month. So they were saying it's probably gonna cut it down in half. So in the long run, it's gonna save money, but it's gonna take a while to recoup it. But we don't have a choice. The system's been there since 1958, so, and it's always breaking down, so.
But as far as cost, so the equipment itself, not the drop in the ceiling, the price is similar?
The one company, we just talked to him, he mentioned 150,000 to put that type of system in. That's without dropping the ceiling, so.
All right,
So,
we're still waiting, and we don't know what the one by putting forced air, which is dropping the ceiling.
No,
We don't know what that one
No,
is.
he didn't give me an idea, he wouldn't give me an idea.
Okay.
I can understand that because he's gonna submit a bid one of these days, and he didn't, I didn't really want to tell him what the other estimate might be.
Right.
And according to the rumor that's out, one company's not very good, but you know how that works. He said the other company wasn't any good either, so.
Well, that was the one coming.
Yeah, right, so, you know how that goes. But, we'll have a special meeting to decide what we want to do. So, actually, two special meetings, one.
That's the health department.
Health department, and what we decide will be brought to the full board. Well, Augie said it has to be brought to the board to decide which bid we want to accept.
Well, aren't they going to bring the recommendation to the county board to
We're not paying for it.
expend those?
No, they're paying for it. So.
They're
Okay.
paying for it.
Somewhere I'd heard
So we
that.
shouldn't won't have to come to board then?
Gentlemen,
Well, I
I mean,
stand
I don't
corrected
see
then.
why it would come to the county board, but
Is that our building?
it's our building, but it's their budget and they're paying for it.
Right.
Their statute that they have to follow, they have to make that.
So
Basically, they come to us and say, here's what we've decided we want to do, and we say, that's fine with us, or not fine
Right.
with us.
Something like that.
Yeah, well, as far as
Just-
accepting or
It's our
rejecting the
building.
bids,
So we just,
We have to
we
be
set a
careful
meeting,
what I'm
open the bids, decide at that particular meeting, or maybe another meeting later on, to decide what company we want to go by. So we'd have to have two meetings. One to accept the bids, open the bids, and then a second meeting to accept the company that we want to do the work.
the
I'm
county
kinda-
board wouldn't do
I
that.
don't think we'd have to.
No,
get
no,
our-
I'm saying the health department
Right.
committee. Now, I just want to be clear on it, so I don't
Alan?
mess
No,
up.
I just want to make sure, I would think we have something, if we own a building, we would have some authority to at least make sure though on that, because otherwise somebody could, far-fetched put a nuclear plant in your building.
Remember the
Money raiser.
Yeah.
the legal opinion you gave to us or had about the health
Yeah, oh,
department?
they have a lot of authority.
Right.
Yeah, they have a lot of authority.
So, I mean,
Yeah.
it would be nice if your board would communicate to us and tell us
Okay.
what we're doing, what they're ultimately doing.
What we're doing.
Yeah.
We don't
Well,
have,
but that's hopefully what it is.
that's why I want to know if we have to have a special meeting with the whole board to accept the bid.
That's,
I'll work on it.
all right. Anything else, Dan?
No. I had a dog bite, but it was family dog, so it was reported. I was working the night, the person was brought in, they called Linda Farnham answered and said everything was done according to law, whatever, so nothing involved. So the dog had shots, it was a family dog, so there's nothing we had to do with that.
Mr. Helsley?
I can't think of anything.
Mr. Farnham?
One thing I had was that earlier this morning, we met on the union proposal, and we're getting a response back to them, and once we hear from them, we'll set up a meeting to further the negotiations.
it.
Okay. Mr. Zuber.
Yes, sir. Just a couple things, as we talked a little bit about the program that several of us went to on the new jail facilities, and somebody, I think it was Carl, said like, you know, can you come back and talk to us a little bit more about that? Of course, that's when I sassily said, yeah, if you have 4 days of 8 to 5, I can do that, you know. But in talking to the sheriff a little bit, he'd like a little more time to plan on that, so probably next month, I think, you know, he's gonna, you know, do a little bit more pitch, and hopefully that, you know, if he needs some help from us or whatever, but that'll give us an idea. Again, a lot of information at that plan, but that way he'll have more perspective from, I think, truly the sheriff's end. So that's one thing on that. On our insurance, I appreciate Augie being there with me the other day when the representative for my PMG, it's one of our property and casualty people were there and talking with us. I felt it was a really good meeting. And again, thank you, Augie, for being there. One of the things as we look at now the renewal of that, about 1.5 years ago, we asked if they had the facilities, if that was a part of their plan to go back and look at our buildings, to reevaluate, kind of evaluation of our buildings, because they had not really been done for a long time, or I'm not sure when or how they came up with those for sure. Somebody said at one time 2006 or something, but I'm not sure if it was that far back. Or even they were done. What they did was they went through and then also talked with Travis Bush, who our person who's our company, who's like our insurance people who look over this, and he said there's 2 basic companies that go through for all the major companies now and do reevaluations. And one of them was the CBiz, which is what IPMG had used. And now we have an actual report that shows you the exact building, and they went through, and instead of like lumping different buildings together, they went through every building that they could possibly find, and they correlated that to that, even like if it's some sort of a storage shed out here. So, you know, that may be something that we just need to, one, go through as board members, or at least as building people, and say, did they still get everything? Now, the problem with doing that, that's what Travis said, and he says, not a problem, it's a good thing, and that's what these guys kind of confirmed too, is that it's gone up a lot. And I mean, a lot, which makes sense, you know, which makes sense. You know, of course, my premise is like all of a sudden if somebody from the insurance company goes out and looks at something and says, oh yeah, that's gonna go up this much, because the higher it goes, naturally, the more insurance you're paying for. The other side of that, as board members, you have to make determinations, how much are we willing to risk? Insurance is a risk. For example, you know, the courthouse itself, like went up 71%, you know, from like 6.3 million to 10.7 million. Now, these are replaceable, what was their term? Do you remember? It was like three words that meant totally replaceable, back in operation again. Is that kind of what you understood that?
Yeah, replacement cost versus market value.
Yeah, or something.
Is what they were talking about.
Yeah, and so those are the valuation comparison reports. Overall, okay, overall, you know, it went up 92.5%. Okay?
Now, that's the value.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
yeah. And again, you know, that's where you look at, you know, where's your risk? Because my question to them was, if that, I wouldn't want that, if that courthouse goes down, we're probably not gonna build that back up just like the way it looks.
Well, it would be way more than that.
Well, I don't know. This is supposedly that, but he said even if you don't, that's what it's gonna cost you to put that back in to get all those goods and services that are in there. I don't know.
Alan, I bumped the tort budget, because a little birdie kind of
Yeah,
gave me an
that's what I was
idea.
telling you before.
So we bumped the tort budget to accommodate. Doesn't mean we have to spend it, but once the board figures out what they want to do, then the money's in there for the budget.
And I don't want to belabor it. I mean, anybody can see it from that standpoint what it was, but then according to them, and of course that's the insurance company, said, oh, well, now you need to make sure that you pay for that. And then according to Travis too, and that's why I kind of like having both those people, or 2 or 3 different people kind of agreeing on something, they said, you know, once you made that determination, you know, whenever to come in and look and see what it is, then you know what it is. And so if you choose not to insure that, then that's on us, quite honestly.
Can you pick and choose what building you want, like Kreckman Building, if it burns down, we're not really gonna miss it that much, so you have to put that on there and pay for the replacement value of it, or?
Yeah, you mean like because it went up 353.8%?
Yeah.
Yeah, because, yeah, I mean, you have,
Yeah.
Well, we wouldn't replace it, obviously.
I don't know, I mean, but what's inside there right now? So then you have a replacement value, or are there things in there? Great questions, but that's what Augie and I kind of ask also, like, how do we do this? Well, then that's the same thing I heard from both of them. You have to make determinations on what are you storing in there? What's in there, what's important to you? Do you need to replace that building at all? Do you need to replace part of it? Do you need to replace what's inside it? Someplace, somehow. So those are your calls, and if you don't, then that still doesn't take away your liability on that building. If you still have that building,
You still gotta pay some
you still
amount.
have liability on that building, unless you can get somebody to buy it, you know, or get rid
Well,
of it.
lease it,
because-
and they, in the contract, they have the liability, whatever.
Yeah, but I'm just, you know, we have certain things on it. So
Are we
I
gonna
won't,
get
I won't
this
go on with
report?
it anymore.
Are we gonna get this report?
Yeah, I think you got it.
I got it. Did I get it?
The 2 insurance committee members got theirs this morning, but the rest of the board hasn't yet.
Oh, okay.
Okay,
I
so-
will email that out.
Then my question
Yeah.
is, are you going to come up with a recommendation, your committee, on how we should handle it?
We can, or like, I was hoping everybody would get this, and so that you can kind of look at it, because just like Dan's question, you know, whether or not we can do that as a committee too, but also the idea, I think we need a group consensus on something specifically like a Kreckman building.
Yeah.
Is that important to us? Is it not? Because it's worth some money,
Yeah.
you know, and I don't know. I don't know the answer. So, yeah,
Well,
we
we have
can meet
to
as a
protect the
committee.
investment of the county.
Right.
I mean,
And that's,
And the county's assets, which,
right.
Well,
and that's what I'm saying. I mean, so once we decided to go ahead and get this, you know, and the people were in here about a year and a half ago and said like, well, we don't even know how much all this stuff's worth.
Can you
We got it.
that for everybody?
Yeah.
Do
I mean, not
No,
right
Let's
now.
make
I
them
mean,
now.
it's kind of neat too.
Yeah,
I
it is.
really appreciate how they
Right.
separated everything out. I mean, it was,
Well, I kind of need to know, I realize that the assessed value or the appraised value has gone up 92.5. How does that convert into what it's gonna cost us? I mean,
yes, well, and that's
it's not
right
gonna-
now in
they're
your
not gonna
renewal
charge us
aspect.
92.5 more
Well,
percent
right
on
now,
our insurance.
and that's a
So-
good question, because our renewal is due like December, we have to have that by December 1st. So they were expecting to get their information back to us within like 3 weeks here. So I said, well, that's gonna be kind of important, because we really like to have that stuff for sure before the 1st of November, so we can make some determinations on whether or not we're gonna challenge something, not challenge something. But, again, even according to our insurance advisors, this is one of the 2 companies that basically all, not just this insurance company, but all insurance companies do.
is the total amount counting all the buildings, or is it each building separate on how much it costs for the insurance?
Well, now that
That's
will
what
be
I'm
something that I said, when your renewal bids come out, you'll be able to look at those and see. They'll probably give you a general overall package, but we may want to go back and look at it.
Is this something that the insurance company did, or who should do
What's this thing?
this?
Yeah, well, we did this as a county board. We went back to them when it was Rita Goodman came in here one time, or the time before that,
Rita, okay.
and said, hey, you know, this is something, we had, actually, it wasn't really Rita, in all fairness. It was us, as a board, several board people said like, well, we ought to know what it is, in case it was the county, it was the courthouse what stemmed it.
Right.
What do we have to do to replace that thing? Well, then we started looking, and we found out nobody really done this before. So it's kind of like if you have your house reappraised, a lot of times your appraisal's gonna go up, and your insurance company's gonna say, it's gonna cost more to replace it than what you think. Did I answer that?
I just, yeah, insurance company.
Did the increase in Craigman, did that go up because it's not
At the hospital.
being used, or they didn't give any reason?
They just said what the value of that thing was, for example,
No.
because they lifted it off, and I don't know whether that was because what he gave it to us, well, that's before my time, like 260,000 to something like 1.1 million. Yeah, go ahead. So, I mean,
You're fine.
yeah,
I was
so,
trying to protect.
yeah, no, okay. So I'm not sure, but like I said, whenever I have, at least I like to have the idea that both, not necessarily sides, but one person who's supposed to be looking for it and one person who's doing it. The other part I want to get in there a little bit is we found out also, which I appreciated, from this company, we've had IPMG since we rebid it a couple of years ago. It used to be HCC, which probably means nothing. But IPMG came in originally several years ago, I guess, with a really high bid. And then we had HCC. Then IPMG decided they wanted our business, and it came back down. They do provide a lot of different services for us, which is kind of neat. They do have some lawyer ability for us, some risk management also from that standpoint. So as we look at maybe next year or the year before, if you're really comfortable with the insurance company, you're not as concerned about having an insurance advisor. Maybe they can do some of the same stuff. You wouldn't need that, but. Mike? No, I'm just telling you, that's why you have an advisor, to make sure they're doing it. If you're in business, you're in business to make money. So right off the bat, when we did this originally, it wasn't rebid. And so we had this other company. Then this other company, because our advisor said, you need to go back and have that rebid. Then all of a sudden, this company comes back in, and they rebid something that's worth it to us now. We wouldn't have done that if we wouldn't have had that advisor come back and say, there's somebody else out there, or they can do a better job at that. And that's what they did. So again, that's why you have them. Then you make a determination. Because the other side of that is, in my mind anyway, if this insurance company provides this stuff, will they get the bid every time? Or will they get a renewal every time? If they don't, then you have to be careful, because if you're part of what you're getting, in my mind, if you're part of what you're getting in their bid is these other ancillary services, and your bid doesn't match up to that, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not an insurance professional. That's, to me, is the advantage of having an insurance advisor say, yeah, these are apples and these are apples, or this doesn't provide. So that's why I came back like that way, because I'm not there. I don't know that stuff. But they do have some stuff on a risk management aspect, and they also have some labor relation aspects that we're kind of paying for, I feel like. And we're paying for both of them, and right now, while we're paying for both things to kind of check and balance each one, I think it's a good thing to, I told them, they work for us. I told Bushu, they work for us.
So we're actually using some of those services that you actually are?
I don't think we are, Derek, as much as that's, but a part of that is, until the big guy from the big office came, I'm not sure even some local agents realized what was available to us. So that's why it's a good thing to sit down there. So I appreciate all you being there. I don't think renewal's up December 1st. That's the only other thing I was going to talk about. And
Work comp look okay?
yeah, that's another thing here, is that, we got a quote unquote, received a quote unquote bonus from that, the last 2 years. I think we need to decide either as a whole group or the building committee or something, to go in, and that's one of the things he encouraged us to do, is spend that money, because that was an amount that was reimbursed.
Right.
So, if you have repairs and stuff you need on the whole county, or if you need a new lawnmower, if you need something else,
We've
spend
spent
that
a little
money.
bit
So,
of it, but we
but I
haven't
mean, yeah.
spent much of it.
Right, and that's what I say, maybe there is a project that you would know about, or the building crew, and,
Yeah.
and just, that's what this guy encouraged, he said, that's what it's there for.
Yeah, I think
Don't let
we probably got 12, 14,000 bucks, I would guess.
Yeah, because there was some carryover from the
Right,
year before. but-
right, and
so-
we're keeping track of that,
Right,
so
so, and that,
we can assign it to some
right, and
projects.
that all worked good, so thanks for bringing that part up.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that's it, Jeff.
Derek, do I need to call on you?
Just happy to be here.
Well, I would point out that Derek and I spent a little time Saturday morning starting to go over finance, so, at any rate, let's see. I will start on the budget as the current budget. We are in almost the start of the 11th month. which means that 83.3% of the year has passed. We've had the last payroll in, so we're at 77.6% on expenditures as opposed to 83.3. I'm just gonna say it, the budget for the sheriff's office is in line. He's actually 2 basis points below budget, so,
He's still got time though to be,
well,
I can forward here pretty quick.
yeah, right.
what my point is that
It's looking better than it was.
people are working on it, and the cooperation is good, and that's what it
Our feet will
takes.
be in this week though.
But I wanna point that out. We do need to come up with a special meeting to handle budget sometimes pretty soon. To handle budget and levy, to consider what the ambulance service has done. We've got all the documents except for the levy out to all of you. They were sent to you electronically. So we need to come up, we need to have 3 board members come up with, because we're all on the committee. I see it that way as far as finance. Now, if you can't be there, we'll try to accommodate everybody, but we need to have a special meeting to work the budget, okay? So, I ask you when that might be.
Well, I like to have it in the evening, but
Well, that's problematic for Dan unless we have it on a Tuesday. So we could do it on a Tuesday evening.
29th.
Now, the sooner the better, I would suggest.
29th is next to Tuesday.
Where's Augie?
Make a copy.
Pop in it.
We're talking about having a special meeting, Augie.
Great.
That's good. We're looking at September 29th, which is next Tuesday evening. What time, gentlemen?
What, like 9:30, 10 o'clock, Mike, 11?
At night?
oh, I
How long do you expect the meeting to last?
Yeah.
Well, I would imagine it'd last a couple hours.
Well, could say 5 o'clock. Is that too? Something? Do you guys want to eat and then come out at 6? What do you want to do?
6 would be better.
6 would be fine with me.
Have you got any?
What times it get dark?
About 6.
7:30. 7.
What time do you?
Times it get dark, go to sleep.
That's
when it's
fine,
dark.
whatever,
You know
whatever.
that.
The earlier the better for me, but
Yeah,
that's,
no,
if 6 o'clock's what we can do, let's do 6.
Carl, it's all up to you at this point. I mean,
Whatever you
6
guys
o'clock. 6
7:30, will
o'clock.
that cover it?
So Augie,
Seriously.
would you prepare a document for 3 board members to sign that states that we're gonna have a special meeting to discuss the budget appropriation ordinance and levy for fiscal year 16? Okay, and that will be next Tuesday night at 6 o'clock. And that would be at the Preckman Building? Does that
Do we
work
need
for-
to have any office holders there?
Well,
Is it-
we're gonna invite some. I think the sheriff needs to be there, probably Dina. Most of, if you look at the budget, you guys let me know if there's particular questions. I mean, the state's attorney's within $300 or $400 of what he was last year. I don't think we need to talk to the state's attorney, for example. And the coroner, the judicial system has weighted in heavier, but that's because of things beyond their control and because of the cost of jurors. So if you would let me know if you would like any particular office holder, but I thought we would definitely invite the sheriff, Dina. Beyond that, most everybody else is pretty close on their budgets, folks.
I'll be there anyway.
But we need them there to talk about what they're looking at for next year, though.
You mean all the other office
Yeah,
holders?
I mean, is that an invitation that we need to? No, I mean.
We have it in the
everybody's got
past,
their
but
stuff
if,
back. Yeah, no, I don't necessarily.
all that will do would be to,
Drag it
So,
to draw out.
so you feel like you feel comfortable with everybody's turning their stuff back in, you know what they're wanting.
right, and we
That's
have,
the only thing I was saying.
we have an explanation on the budget that they've turned in. You know, some have not made any comments, some have made comments. For example, on the tech budget, we forgot to budget in the lease payments for copiers last year. You know, so there's an extra $18,000 in there
I
for
wonder
this.
why that was.
Right, and those are things, and I mean, and you may want to talk to Ross particularly about other projects. But I mean, it's up to you guys. It's your call, it's your meeting.
I wouldn't think it'd be necessary for everybody to be there. You know, if you have any questions, I mean,
Well, between now and then, we may think of something.
Right, that's what I'm saying, and if you let, so we can let them know in plenty of time to be there.
Or if they wanted to be there.
Right.
I mean, just like extend that and say, hey, we're gonna have this, if there's something you really wanna add or talk about.
We can do
At least
that.
to give them an opportunity.
Augie, did you hear that? I mean, well.
Yes, sir.
We'll let them know, I mean, I would send out to all department heads and elected officials that we are going to have a budget meeting. We're inviting some, and obviously, if you want to be there, you can be, but if you haven't been contacted, you know, it's so, okay? The levy, I might, no, the budget for next year is a balanced budget, but it only allows for about $43,000 in pay down on the previous deficits that we had several years ago against the 170 this year. So there, I have, and I think you should have real concerns about where we're at on that budget.
what's the approximate amount of the debt?
The approximate amount of the debt, not including what we're gonna pay down this year, is about 493, is that right? 493? So, you know, and it remains to be seen what we're gonna pay down this year. I mean, I'm not comfortable yet making any guesses, because I don't know where we're gonna come in with the courthouse. You know, we still have to pay down 36,000 towards the debt on the clock tower. Yes, Dan?
Always repeat, probably as mentioned before, why did we get in that shape to start with? I mean, I don't understand finances, but they say 600,000
It was
And then
630,000.
from previous
When Carl and I
boards.
came on board.
Or how did we get that bad shape?
We spent more money than we took
Well, I
in,
know
that's
that,
exactly
but
what.
where? I mean, that's my point.
Everywhere. I think sometimes, you know, I don't wanna
They
take
give hourly
shots.
rate, I don't know.
I don't wanna take shots at the past, what
Yeah,
happened,
but
happened.
I understand, but I just don't.
I think what we do now is we watch the budget every couple of
Yeah.
weeks. And I think
Never
that's
did that
important.
before.
And I don't know what happened before, because Carl and I weren't on the committee when, or the board when this happened.
I think
And,
insurance was a big part.
Right, and you know, you could point to several, there was stuff that we would get in, or we're a conduit for money, for example. 100,000 comes in that then we pay out, well, we would show it as income, but we wouldn't show it as an expense. So, you know,
I just want.
things happen.
I don't know much on finance.
There ain't anybody
Health
here that was in
insurance.
that.
Pardon?
Health
We're all
insurance was a
different.
big thing.
Yeah,
Big
insurance,
increases.
bidding insurance, and taking care of business, and watching the budget constantly. I mean, you know, we,
Sounds like part of the answer was it was easy to carry it forward, and with some creative bookkeeping, they could pay all their bills and not, you know, just write that off at the end of the year, and so that's how they chose to move forward.
That creative bookkeeping got destroyed with the last treasurer. That was all computer
I
distraction.
don't know. I just-
Too many unfunded airport projects.
I don't know about that.
okay. So, at any rate, to answer your
I
question.
just.
Now, the levy, as soon as Terry has all the levy documents except for the ambulance service, and that's something we need to discuss, but that's not part of the county levy and the extensions. And at this point, it's gonna be neutral. There's no increases or decreases to speak of, so I don't see us asking for more. There's a couple of agencies that are asking for more. Mental health is asking for an additional approximately $20,000 next year, but they haven't had an increase in years and years. So even with that, some of our departments or our levies are gonna go down slightly, so it offsets that. So you'll have to look at it and make the ultimate decision on what you like and whether you agree with us that are creating this, so. But I don't see the levy going up. Now, obviously, if we look at the special area ambulance service, that could be.
Are we taking into consideration this battle that's brewing as far as the motor fuel tax and that kind of thing? I mean, we're
Well-
gonna have some obvious expenses that we didn't have last year.
But we're at max, and we can't ask for it. Okay, I mean, we are still required to you know, only take so much per $100, and the highway fund, the aid, federal aid matching tax, CATV are all at maximum.
Okay.
So we're doing what we can do there. Now, I will point out that since the last meeting, we've gotten in well over $100,000 in sales tax, replacement sales tax, and income tax. So that money is still coming in. So
But MFT is still not.
MFT is still not.
Is there any other state money that's not coming? that you're
We
aware
are
of?
not being reimbursed currently for some of our department heads. For example, the assessor,
Yeah.
the state's attorney, and so
But
forth.
is that something that they're not gonna,
No, eventually they'll catch up once
they won't
Once they pass
say,
the budget, then we'll.
you feel confident that,
all don't know.
well,
No.
well, I mean, that's something to
He hasn't
consider,
been to the government. They haven't met.
to consider when we're looking at this budget. If for some reason they don't come up with it, you know, and say, well, just sorry, this year you're out
Yeah, obviously it's something we're gonna have to look at.
for next year's
We're gonna
budget.
have to have Plan B,
Right.
absolutely. Let's see, next on my list,
Jeff, real quick, I'm
Yes,
sorry, I
please,
missed that
go
time.
ahead.
I missed that time. Did we settle on a time for that?
next Tuesday at 6 o'clock. And Augie, after this meeting, or sometime in the next day or two, three of you need to go down and sign for Augie, and I assume you will take care of identifying those folks, Augie?
Yes, sir.
All right. An IMRF payment, Don and I haven't gotten together totally, but it looks like we should be able to make another lump sum payment on IMRF, which, as you recall, and you're new, but the state, even after we started making lump sum payments, came up with the payment plan. First year it was 8,000, then it was 6,200, now it's 5,000, because we're getting caught up, okay?
I think that's an important thing that maybe not everybody realizes also. That was huge.
Yes. So we're continuing to look at that, and it's budgeted in for next year also. I think you all have received information on this subject already. I handed it to Carl. Let's see, Carl and I were the only ones on the board when the last full 911 appointments were made. We have, I think, what, a year and a half ago or 2 years ago added you, Eric.
Into last year.
Okay, I couldn't remember and I lose track of time. Anyway, that's coming up in the next couple months. We'll be dealing with that probably in November. And so your interest and input is important. We've had a couple people that have expressed an interest in being on the board. You've gotten a letter saying that, you know, they're happy with their board right now, so we need to address that issue over the next month or two and make sure that it's an important issue. And also, we should be aware, I don't think Augie's asked for it, but we have an Attorney General's opinion now. Have you been able to get up to see him yet, the state's attorney?
No, not yet.
Okay. Well, anyway, a thing on the sheriff being on the 911 board. There's an Attorney General opinion, and I have not seen it, but the state's attorney told me about it, and I've asked Augie to get it so that we all have a copy of it. So anyway, there's issues, and we need to get them resolved and move on collectively and together, okay? So, let's see. Notes on the audit. I think that's all I've got. Oh, the committee deal. I gave you a copy here. We don't have to do anything right. This is the first time you've had it. For example, I can already see a flaw here. Derek probably doesn't want to be airport manager. There's a lot of things going, not manager, but chairman. But there's a lot of things that we need to look at, make sure.
New blood will be good.
Yay.
Hey. Hey.
What are you saying? My father or
I
something?
said it with a smile.
But at any rate, you guys look
It
at
wasn't a real
this.
smile, though.
We don't want to make any wholesale changes, but we also don't wanna overload Derek when he's first coming on.
I'm fragile.
Okay.
Keep him for a while.
Well,
Don't run me off.
in fairness, I mean, take a look at it, we'll discuss it at the next meeting, and we'll approve it at the next county board meeting. And, no, I haven't forgot you, Og.
I was gonna comment on this.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Your initial thought was just to replace you, Derek, with you.
Right.
So it's not like everything's been thrown up and rejumbled.
No, but we may be able to refine it and make
Right.
little improvements that make better sense, and everybody should have input on that. We'll move forward. We're not talking about making nuclear.
Sorry.
John, you're out of order. In more ways than one. You're still smiling, so we're all right. Okay, so take a look at this. If you have anything that, for example, that with the arrows was something I discovered this morning and I didn't have any idea. I should have known that you were probably licensed insurance.
I am.
And you wanted off the insurance committee. So to me, that made perfect sense, but there could be other refinements, and take a look at it, okay? Nothing's carved in stone. Any questions on finance or anything at this point? Okay, Augie, it's you.
I believe I passed out to all of you the 2016 holiday schedule,
Yes.
and that is something to consider for next month. I placed it.
Here it is.
What I gave you was the vacation schedule as passed by the state Supreme Court, and then I plugged those in. Historically, over the last, I don't know how many years, the board has always added one additional holiday, and that's Good Friday. So that's what the second page is. So you,
Oh, yeah. We have paid holidays.
The one you said that, Jeff? I thought that came from.
No, that was
All
not
right,
me.
I'm sorry.
What is that?
Kurt's wanting Ramadan.
No.
Oh,
so I just wanted to give you that so you can be thinking about that for October.
Thank you, Augie.
Yeah.
Anything else? How's your new staff working out? Everything working out good?
New employees working out good.
Good. Do
think
we have
that's
a
it.
need for a closed session today, folks?
Well, I got one thing I want to bring, just one short thing. What committee would be in charge of all the junk in the Kreckman building? Is that, well, here's what I'm trying to say.
Everybody's pointing at you.
If we don't do, one of these days, we need to figure out, we need to put like an online auction or something, because there is just, or somebody in the townships want it or whatever, but we need to get rid of that stuff, because it is just stacked to the ceiling, and it's just shelves and documents, and it just, to me, it's just a giant rat nest that could catch on fire. We just need to do something with it. And nobody wants to.
Wait a minute.
Sheriff, is that,
Cost just went up.
Sheriff, is that something that, you have control of the physical plant, okay? Is there any orderly, or is there something you wanna see done that's not being done? Or some of the rules that you wanna apply to
Most of the
it?
stuff back there's old, there's a bunch of old stuff, looked like from probably out here.
Yeah, there's tires.
Courthouses, well, I know the tires come from the jail, the tires.
Voting machines, there's just all
There's
kinds.
old voting machines.
Well, there's quite a bit of paperwork that needs to be determined
Right.
how to destroy that.
And some of it, if I remember right, is legal paperwork from,
Yes, there's quite a bit of that.
so I don't know if that's, I mean, if
What
Some
the
of it
legal-
you
that
can't
us,
get
or we
rid
need to
of.
call them and say, hey, you need to come get your paperwork. And
Some of it I think you can, but it has to be done, you can't just throw it in the dump.
Right.
You
Well,
have
like-
to, it has to be
I
shredded.
went to the conference, ICC or whatever, UCCI last year, and that's why I came back. There's a guy up there at the state, that's what they do. There's an organization up there, works for the state of Illinois. And he would love to have people that come in from the county, and that's going like the Augie's office, Donnie's office, everybody said, just tell us to come in all day. He said he wants to get the townships involved too, do it. He said, because, if you have a copy of stuff and it only says you need one, don't save 3 extra copies. He said, not trying to be mean, not trying to do anything else, but
Alright.
You just, it just continues.
That
And he said
courthouse
it just
basement
grows.
full of
It
stuff.
grows and grows and grows. He said, you don't need all that stuff. But
Augie?
I don't know.
Every department needs to file a request with the local records division, Secretary of State's office. So that's how that works. And so there are several departments that have old records, documents that were archived across the street from the courthouse in that building,
Yeah.
which got moved out to the Kreckman building. So it
Yeah, and he said that you could do it on a whole county basis. The guy who's the director of that on the whole state of Illinois, he said you can do it by a county and just have each of those departments on there, and they'll come in and do the whole county if you want.
What do
But
they
it's-
do?
it's
When
getting
you say
everybody
they'll come
together.
in and do the county, what do they do?
They check all your files. They check all the.
And
he said it's
determine
a
what
con-
could be thrown out? Oh, that'd be great.
we've been actively lighting the load on my ship.
So we need
Takes
to get,
everybody getting together.
is that something that we can put on the agenda for
Is
your
there a charge
next,
for it?
next,
No charge for it.
excuse me, for the next, meeting of the office committee?
Certainly.
So that they, I mean, tell them that it's a priority and we need to keep up with that.
Certainly.
I mean, a lot of that stuff out there, it's got value. Why don't we either give it to the township or give it to the ambulance or whatever, as long as it's, you
Want some
know,
old tires?
let's get rid of it.
I'm good.
Well, we need to do it according to Hoyle.
Right, right,
There
that's
have to
what
be-
I'm talking about.
I mean, we just don't come in and.
But just
we gotta be
throwing it
careful.
back there in a pile and leaving it for the next 25 years is not the answer, because, you know.
All right.
And I think, but my point on something like that is, I think that's a pretty expensive storage shed. If we have to start going and paying insurance on that. Myself.
That's all the pickers.
Right. You what?
Have the pickers come down.
The pickers, yeah.
Use some of that money Augie's collecting for document management, have it all scanned.
No, that belongs in my department.
Okay. Now, do we have a need for a closed session? Does anybody? I don't. Okay. Anything else come before the study session this morning? I'd like to thank you all. It's been civil and we appreciate it. So we are adjourned.